How's it going? I'm Jared Gillis. Welcome to another All About RVs. Today, we're going to be talking about fan install upgrades. We've had 3 openings that we've done 3 different fan style upgrades, and so we wanted to see which one we liked the best. There's one that definitely rose to the top. So a lot of information today. Let's get right into it. So we're going to be looking at a couple of the different MaxxAir fans, 2 different MaxxAir fans. We're going to look at the covers that you can put on them. We're going to look at the Heng's fan, a real simple upgrade that you don't have to do anything on the roof of the RV. It's a simple install you can do from the inside. And then we're also going to do somewhat of a fantastic Frankenstein fan. I wanted to see what I could do to just buy the pieces, because I know everybody's thought about it that doesn't want to change the vent on the roof, but they want to be able to change the vent inside to a fantastic fan or a MaxxAir fan. So we're going to buy the fan, we're going to buy different pieces and see if we can build something that would be almost as good as a MaxxAir fan or a fantastic fan. So we're going to call that one the FrancinFan. But since the fan that we are using there is the fantastic fan, it'll give us an idea of how much air it's going to move and the sound that it would be of it operating. Now, let's start off with the one that is the Heng's, because that is the one that we installed first in the bathroom. We just had the really simple stock fan that was in there. It does move some air. It's not a whole lot of air, it just had an on-off switch. There was no high, medium, or low. You just got what you got. But we wanted to see if we could upgrade that with this other one. So this is a really simple upgrade because you don't have to change the vent on the roof. So you don't have to mess with any of the seals on the roof. You pull down the inside trim inside the RV, we can remove the switch from the trim piece that's going to be up in that vent work. And then we just have to remove either a couple of screws, or in our case, we had rivets that we needed to drill out so that we could remove that stock fan. The Heng's is a self-contained unit that's going to fit into that same opening, but it has kind of a gear drive for being able to fit different type of vent openings, because we still need to be able to open that lid and close it from in here. And with that larger fan, they give you an offset so that you can still open and close it and have a larger fan in this opening. So we put in that offset, and then we just put this whole unit up inside the opening. We have a couple of screws that then mount it to the framework, and then we just have to connect the positive and negative wire for our electrical connections, 12-volt electrical connections, and then we put our trim piece back into the opening. So almost all of the install happened from inside the RV. I just had to go up on the roof to drill out those rivets to remove the old fan. Now, the old stock fan that we pulled out was similar to the old stock fan we had in our other RV, but our old one, it was extremely loud. This newer one wasn't really all that loud, but if you were to compare it side by side, this is what it sounds like from about 6 feet away for the old stock fan. And then this is what the Heng sounds like from low, medium, and high. So this one does get a little bit louder when you're looking at that high setting, but we usually use it on low. And so while it is louder than the other one, we do move a little bit more air. So to do a really quick, simple test on this, I just put a streamer in front of the only window that we had open in the RV, and then we turned on the stock fan to see how much air that was moving, and then we did it with the Heng's. And you can see that on level 1, level 2, and level 3. And so you can see that there's a potential to move more air than it was with the old fan. The old fan was also drawing 1.4 amps while it was operating. It only had the 1 speed, and the Heng's is working at less on the low. It's at 0.72 for low, medium was 1.06, and high was 2.16. So we're moving more air on low and on medium than the old stock fan, and we're drawing fewer amps. So more air movement and less power. So that's how the Heng stacks up against the old stock fan. So moving on to the MaxxAir fan. And so there's a lot of different options that you can look at in a MaxxAir fan. We're going to look at the 2 main styles that are out there. And then the other things are just options that you can add on. You can add on a remote. You can have it with a thermostat. You can have it be manual open, you can have it open automatically. There's a lot of different options you can have in there, but the fan is going to remain the same. It just depends on the options that you wanted to have go along with it. So for example, with our MaxxAir fan in the living room here, we wouldn't be able to reach it to be able to use it, turn it on and open it, but we have a control on the wall. So they have wireless ones out there, so you don't have to run wires through the wall if you didn't need to. But this one, we're able to open it from the control box, so that can open and close it. We can also change change the speed of the fan between 1, 2, 3, and 4 settings. So they also have some that have 10 settings out there. It's not that it's going to go slower or faster, it's just going to break it up into 10 segments inside there rather than the 4 from high to low. We also didn't put a vent cover over the one here in the living room because it has a rain sensor. And so since that one has a mechanical way of opening and closing, if you put a cover on that, sometimes you can bind up those gears and you have to replace that occasionally because it's trying to push up against that cover. No matter which one you find out there, we can't find one that would open up far enough or be able to have a tall enough clearance to where it can fully open up and not cause that issue with the motor. But it's really not that big of a deal because we have the rain sensor on there, so if it is raining and we have that vent and fan open, it will shut it down and close it so that it doesn't get wet on the inside. Now that brings us to the next MaxxAir fan that I wanted to talk about that we installed on the RV because it doesn't need an additional cover to be able to have it open during the rain. And it doesn't have a rain sensor. It's one that you can leave open while it's raining and it's all self-contained, no additional cover needed. Now with this one, it's pretty easy to see the difference. We have this vent lid cover that's much longer than your standard one. So usually the vent cover or lid is going to be about the same dimensions as the vent coming out of your roof. It's not going to be much different. But this one has this extra overhang over here that gives us a much longer vent lid on here. So when you open it up, it still has protection on the sides and obviously this much longer lid to be able to use it and have it be protected in the rain. So you can still use this in the rain and you don't need an additional lid on top, an additional cover that's going to add height to it. Let's try it out. If I reach in there, you can see as it opens, you can see that things are pivoting and allowing it to be open and it's still protected from the rain. So let's get this one installed and see what the upgrade process is like on this one. Now we started the install on this one by removing the trim pieces on the inside, and then really the longest part of the install of this one is just removing all the caulking and getting it off of the roof on the outside, because you want to be really careful when you're pulling up all the adhesive and caulking that's holding this down to the roof. It's held down by screws, but you have all of that caulking that's just a pain to remove. It takes quite a while. You have to take your time because these rubber roofs, they're really easy to tear, so you just want to be able to pull back on this as easily as you can without tearing it, but still removing it. Even when you're lifting up the old vent flange, you want to be really careful that you're not just pulling up your rubber roofing everywhere and removing that seal from the roof deck to the rubber roofing underneath. I really wish that they made all vent fans the same way that they made this one and the way that it's kind of modular. I'll show you at the end what I mean. But we want to be able to clean up the entire roof area, and then we're going to seal our roof flange to the roof deck. We have sealant that goes underneath there and then it screws down, and then self-leveling sealant to finish it off. You can see that that's really the hardest part because now we have our vent portion that's going to fit down onto this flange. We have 4 screws that are going to hold it to that flange, and then we just make our electrical connections on the inside, and then we have our trim pieces that finish it off. But you can see that if they all made their fans this way, we could just have 4 screws that we could pop off, and then we can put a new unit right onto there, onto that roof flange. We would never have to mess with the seal on the top of the RV. It would be an excellent way if they all switched to this. But this, I think, is the only one that actually has this roof flange in this way. I can only dream that someday we can see an improvement in this area in the manufacturing. They would make this thing way more simple. But let's get to how this actually performs. So if we put this on setting 1, the low setting, it's only drawing 0.12 amps. 0.12 amps, that's hardly anything. Setting number 2 comes in at 0.605. Setting number 3 is at 1.48. And setting number 4 is at 2.75. And as far as sound, on that first setting, it is really hard to hear. You can barely tell that it's on even when you're right below it. So this is a great fan to be able to have if you're going to be putting it in a bedroom where you're going to be sleeping and you don't want to be bothered by the fan noise. This is a very quiet fan on setting 1. Then for setting 2, this is what it sounds like. For setting 3, this is what it sounds like. And setting 4. Now, if we compare how much air this is moving compared to the Heng's fan, you can see that this moves significantly more air throughout the different levels. Level 1, it moves a decent amount of air, and settings 2, 3, and 4, it's moving a significant amount of air. It's much louder on that number 4, but if you wanted to move some air, this thing is moving a lot of air. It's definitely a nice fan, but one of the things that I like about it too is since we don't need a cover on it, we just have that lid, and it has we did the smoked top lid on there, so that way it still lets some of that light in. You can still see out. It's not the white lid that's more opaque, and this one's more transparent. So this is completely a personal preference on my end, as I do like to be able to see out of the vents. Use them a little bit as a skylight. Let some of that natural light into the RV. Now that brings us to the option of being able to add a cover to the other vents in the RV, not this one, but the other ones. And that is an upgrade that you can do. I'll put links down in the description to everything that we talk about today, from the fans to the covers to the parts. All of it will be links down in the description. But a cover for you can do a couple of different things. Number one, it can actually make the sound of the rain a little bit less loud because you have that extra buffer. It's hitting that cover rather than just that plastic lid on the inside of the RV. So that might be something you would be interested in if the sound of the rain inside the RV is something that bothers you. And then you have the choices of different styles out there as well. Not only do you have the more transparent ones and the more opaque ones, but you have the way that they attach to the vent. Some have quick release pins so that you can open it up and clean underneath there, or other ones just simply attach to the vent up there and just provide a cover. So each one of these steps, depending on what kind of fan you would like or what kind of cover you would like, really boils down to what you would and should upgrade to. I always say that you should upgrade to a fan and a cover inside of the bathroom. I think it's key when you take a shower in there to run that fan. Get that moisture out of the RV so you're not just containing it inside of the RV. It's better to get that moisture out. So that's something that you should upgrade to, being able to run that fan even if it's raining outside to get that moisture out. But we do have one more fan to install on the RV. Now for our last fan that we installed, that was more of an experiment and a project. I wanted to see what I could come up with trying to create that fan from the inside without messing with the seal on the roof as an option. And there was a lot that comes involved in this. There's a lot that comes into these MaxxAir fans or the Fantastic fan. There's a lot of elements that go into that to make it function properly. So what I needed is I started off with the Fantastic fan. So we had that as the base unit. And then we needed a way to be able to still open up that lid, because with that larger fan, we didn't have a way to be able to open up the lid. So then we had to add a gear to be able to move it, and then we added a motor so that we can run that gear and be able to open and close that lid. And then we needed a momentary polarity reverse switch that has an on-off-on so that we can open and close it and control that motor. So it starts to get a little bit more involved with all these things in there. And then this fan also is a 3-speed fan, so we had to have a speed controller to be able to have the different levels of using this fan. It was a fun project and a fun experiment, but I don't know if I would, this isn't one that I'm going to recommend because it would take a while to walk through all the things that we had to do. I didn't want to buy extra trim pieces, so cutting out the plastic so that the switches fit, and there's just a lot involved to it, but this is the results that we got out of it. It's a decent looking fan, and if we have it on the low setting, it's pulling 0.17 amps. On the second setting, mid setting, it's 1.16 amps, and on that third high setting, it's 2.27 amps. And this fan is louder on all the settings compared to the MaxxAir fan. Our FrancinFan is louder. So if you put it on setting 1, this is what it sounds like. Medium sounds like this, and high sounds like this. And when I do our quick comparison with the streamer in the window to see how much it moves, it's not moving it quite as much as the MaxxAir fan, but this is what it looks like on low, medium, and high. So we saw a bit more performance out of the MaxxAir fan compared to this one that I built. So out of all these that we did, the one that I liked the most was the one that we did in the bedroom, the one that already had its own cover. It works in the rain. We didn't have to buy an additional cover because once you look at upgrading to the Hengs and we buy a cover to be able to use it in the rain, we're actually looking at more money than we were for the MaxxAir fan that was in the bedroom. If you're looking for one that is the easiest install to add a fan to inside your RV, you can look at that Hengs, because that is going to be the easiest install. Nothing needs to be done on the roof. It is very simple. So I think that's going to do it for today. I hope this video helps you out where you might need to do an upgrade, where you should do an upgrade, and it gives you some of that information. What does it sound like compared to the other ones? What's the amp draw? All that information all in one place so you can make an informed decision. So I think that's going to do it for today. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos about RVing, hit that subscribe button. If we don't see you on the road, hopefully we will see you next video.